Episode 37, Cryptids in Appalachia, Part 2. Hey y'all, I'm Heather, and this is Poison Appalachia, the dark side of Appalachia. As always, thank you for listening. Hope you enjoyed last week's episode on the cult of the unknown tongues. I'd never heard of that story, and I thought it was pretty interesting, so hope you did too. This week's episode is actually the second episode of Cryptids in Appalachia, and I'd done the first one as a bonus episode for Halloween last year. I was going to wait till Halloween this year for part 2, but then I decided I wanted to do it now. And as I always say, this is my podcast, and I make my own rules. So today is Cryptids in Appalachia Part 2. The Appalachian region is full of cryptids. I'm going to try to cover several of them today, but maybe all of them, maybe not. There are a bunch of them. I covered a bunch last time, and I still think I'll have at least another episode after this, but we'll have to wait and see. Appalachia is known for its cryptids due to a combination of factors, including its rich folklore traditions, dense forests, rugged terrain, and isolated communities. There are a lot of caves and forests to hide unknown creatures, and as I mentioned before, the Appalachian Mountains are very old, so I guess if an unknown creature were to exist, this would be the perfect place to hide. As I mentioned in the Wendigos in Appalachia episode, there's a saying in Appalachia, if you hear your name, no you didn't. Really, anything here after dark, you're best to ignore it. Because even if it isn't a cryptid, it's going to be like a coyote or something, and you don't want to mess with that either. So let's start with the Goat Man. The Goat Man is a humanoid cryptid most commonly associated with Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, and Texas. It's described as a 7-foot-tall hybrid creature, part man and part goat. The urban legends often tell of it killing young couples in parked cars or scouring neighborhoods, killing family pets. There are also tales of it breaking into people's houses and raping its victims, and many attest to the areas that he haunts that it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, he will overtake you and rape you. Yeah. Goat Man's not very cool. But when scared teenagers whisper about the Goat Man, not all agree on the form he takes. Some say he is a man who kept goats and went mad after teenagers killed his flock, driven to seek revenge against any youngster. But perhaps the most titillating version traces the origin of Goat Man to the Beltsville Agricultural Research Center, a sprawling USDA facility anchored by a big brick building appointed with white columns. In this version, a mad scientist is conducting experiments on a goat when something goes horribly wrong, turning him to a half-man, half-goat beast that is naturally hungry for blood. But there's actually another story about Goat Man in Appalachia who was a real person, and not a cryptid, and I kind of wanted to just mention him too because his story is pretty interesting. Charles Chess McCartney, also known as the Goat Man, was an American itinerant wanderer who traveled up and down the eastern United States from 1930 to 1987 in a ramshackle wagon pulled by a team of goats. He claimed to have covered more than 100,000 miles and visited all the states except Hawaii. His goats couldn't swim that far, he said, and if they could, they'd just end up eating the grass skirts off the hula dancers anyway. He was a familiar sight to many travelers and vacationers during those years, and one difficult not to notice or remember. McCartney's iron-wheeled wagon was large, rickety, and garishly decorated with a clutter of objects he had found and collected along the road. It contained a bed, a pot-bellied stove, lanterns, and lots of trash, and was pulled by a team of around 9 goats, with a few trailing behind to occasionally push and serve as brakes on downhill stretches of road. His traveling goat herd sometimes numbered up to 30. The goats were surprisingly sturdy and effective draft animals, and McCartney managed to make 5 to 10 miles a day, even pushing up Tennessee's Mount Eagle Mountain during a winter storm that stalled all other vehicle traffic. He claimed he survived the cold that night by pulling a couple of extra goats into the wagon with him. Kids and goat-oats rode in the wagon while bucks did their draft and push work. McCartney kept and cared for his sick and injured goats, including one which had no front legs and learned to hop on its back legs like a kangaroo. He named all of his goats, and one of his favorite, Billy Blue Horns, supposedly lived 3 decades. The Goat Man usually kept his herd and rig to the sides of the roads he traveled, so while he may have slowed down traffic, he rarely stopped it. McCartney's diet consisted mainly of goat milk, supplemented by food given to him, or bought with money that he made selling scrap metal he collected. Postcards of himself or from posting for pictures. He also accepted donations for his free-thinking Christian mission based in Georgia. McCartney had no difficulty attracting attention and visitors as he was friendly, chatty, and quick to share inspirational sermon. By most accounts, he smelled very bad, as did his goats. So even though this goat man was not a cryptid, he was definitely an Appalachian character, and there are about as many as them as there are Appalachian cryptids. So next is the Thunderbird. The Thunderbird is something I was a bit obsessed with as a kid. I saw a picture of one in a book that supposedly was real, and I was immediately interested in finding out everything I could about it, because that's the kind of kid I was. So I guess other than the Mothman, because he is local, he's like my own cryptid, the Thunderbird's probably my favorite cryptid. The Thunderbird is a mythological bird-like spirit in North American indigenous peoples' history and culture. It's considered a supernatural being of power and strength. It's frequently depicted in the art, songs, and oral histories of many Pacific Northwest cultures, but it's also found in various forms among some people of the American Southwest, U.S. East Coast, Great Lakes, and Great Plains. So it's kind of everywhere. And I think that's part of the reason why I was really interested in it, because it was seen in so many places, and I was a pretty smart kid, and I thought since it had been in so many places that it had to be real. I never thought of the idea of each tribe passing it on through their histories, but who knows? Maybe it is real. The Thunderbirds are usually described as gigantic bird-like beings with the power of the storm, rain, and lightning. However, the oral traditions of many tribes also mention their ability to turn into human-like men incarnate as human beings. The Thunderbirds wage an endless war against the serpents, which pass from the underworld into the domain of man through caves, springs, rivers, lakes, and other watery places in order to cause calamities and forge alliances with wicked humans. In many traditions, humanity survives only because the Thunderbirds kept the serpents at bay. Inhabiting the sky, Thunderbirds act as powerful, life-giving spirits who command storm clouds, which bring spring rains. Their eyes shoot lightning, and their wing beats issue thunder. As powers of the upper world, Thunderbirds were a perpetual war against aquatic spirits of the beneath world, often portrayed as malevolent spirits or felines. I said I saw a picture of a Thunderbird that was, when I was young, that was in some book or another, probably a monster book. I love those. But there's a pretty good chance most of us have seen that picture. It's a man in a suit at like a museum or something, and he's standing next to a Thunderbird. The body is large, like probably about as tall as the man, and the wingspan is huge, stretching at least 15 feet or so. There have been many sightings of a giant bird over the years, often associated with the Thunderbird. So, do Thunderbirds exist? Probably not, but you never know. I may believe in it more than some of the others, like Bigfoot. Not really sure about Bigfoot. Next is the Virginian devil monkey. This one's actually near Roanoke, Virginia, which really isn't Appalachia, but it's near the Appalachian Mountains. Not quite considered Appalachia, but it's pretty close, so I'm including it here. From the deep wilderness of southwestern Virginia comes a tale of mysterious, wild, part wolf, part monkey creature that terrorized vehicles in the area. A road construction detour forced a woman from Ohio down a dark two-lane country road in the wee hours of the morning. As she edged her car into the night, a horrific monster suddenly leaped in front of her car, creating panic. The beast was all black, with short, sleek fur, very pointy ears, and a long, thin tail. The horrifying creature stood tall on its hind legs, stretching over 6 feet into the air. The torso was like that of a skinny man, but the rear legs were that of a dog or a wolf. The beast's muscles rippled as it moved. Luckily, the creature left without further harm to the lady, but stories of missing livestock in the area soon followed. This attack wasn't the first appearance of the Virginia devil monkey. Back in 1959, a couple and their daughter were driving in Saltville, Virginia, when a vicious creature charged the vehicle. The strange beast continued to pursue the vehicle and left them with deep scratches dug across the door before disappearing. A few days later, after that encounter, 2 nurses were returning home from work in the Saltville area. Suddenly, an unknown creature attacked them, completely ripping their convertible top off their vehicle. The nurses were able to escape, badly shaken, but none the worse for wear. Again, the Virginia devil monkey left without a trace. So, does Virginia have a devil monkey? Maybe. Who knows? Just might not want to go out in the night if you're in the area, just to be safe. Quetzalcoatlus. So this one was actually something that really existed at one point in time. That point in time was 72 million years ago. But there have been recent sightings of it. Well, pretty recent. Much closer than 72 million years ago, for sure. On September 25th, 2001, a 19-year-old driving along Pennsylvania's Route 119 reported what he described as flags flapping in a thunderstorm coming from above his car. When he looked up, he was astounded to see what looked like a large bird with a 3 to 4.5 meter, which is 10 to 15 foot, wingspan and a strange elongated head flying above him. Over the next few months, 2 more witnesses will report seeing similar creatures in the Greensville and Erie County, Pennsylvania area. The reports were reminiscent of a string of sightings that took place in Texas in 1976 and 1982. In all cases, the creature described sounded remarkably similar to a pterosaur. The sightings in Texas have occurred near to where the fossil of a Quetzalcoatlus northropy, a large pterosaur of the late Cretaceous, was first discovered. Interestingly, these pterosaur sightings seem to occur close to each other in waves. That suggests that people were really seeing something, but what? One obvious candidate is a frigate bird, whose gray feathers can look like leathery skin from the right distance and whose wingspan can reach up to 8 feet. The frigate bird hardly ever lands except to attend to its young and can soar effortlessly over long distance. I mean, maybe it was a thunderbird. Who knows? I think there's more chance of it being a thunderbird than a dinosaur. It just seems weird that their first conclusion was a dinosaur. But, I don't know. You never know. Guess we may never really find out what it was unless there's actual proof of anything. Alien big cats. Phantom cats, also known as alien big cats, or ABCs, are large felids which allegedly appear in regions outside their indigenous range. Sightings, tracks, and predation have been reported in a number of countries, including Australia, Canada, China, Denmark, Finland, France, Germany, Ireland, India, Italy, Luxembourg, Netherlands, New Zealand, Spain, Switzerland, the United Kingdom, and the United States. When confirmed, they are typically explained as exotic pets or escapees from private zoos. Several dead bodies of the smaller type of ABC have turned out to be hybrids between the Scottish wild and domestic house cats. Larger varieties that look like a specific species, such as leopards, are generally presumed to be escaped exotic pets. These are often kept illegally by their owners, so the authorities never know how many of these there might be around. However, the hardest skeptics, including the British government, tend to reject even the exotic pet hypothesis in favor of hoaxes and killings done by Scottish wildcats. A number of leopard skulls found in the moors have turned out to be leopard skin rugs, adding to the controversy. Now, of course, all of this is kind of Scottish-centric, but they're seen in the United States, too. Some cryptozoologists believe that Britain has secretly supported a population of leopards, European lynxes, or some other species of wild felines for thousands of years, with a total population of about 30. The assertion is supported by folklore. There is no time when people did not sight ABCs in the wild of Britain. ABC sightings stretch back into the myths of prehistory. Before science replaced older explanations, these cats were usually thought to be demons in the form of cats, fairy cats, or shape-shifting witches. Some researchers in the field of cryptozoology also use the label alien big cat to refer to any large feline glimpsed by in an environment where it's not supposed to be a native animal. Thus, tigers seen in Africa, or American lions, or Appalachian black panthers would count as ABCs. Sometimes smaller cats are included in the label as well, as is the case sometimes with the sightings of the Scottish wildcat in England. So I've never heard of the term alien big cats or phantom cats or whatever, but I have heard several stories of black panthers being sighted in my area. Zoologists have said many times that these cats are a myth and that they don't exist in Appalachia, but I don't know. It seems like a lot of people have seen something out there. Cats are super elusive when they want to be, so what's not to say there isn't a panther or two out there. I feel like one day we might actually find proof of these, and maybe they're not cryptids. Next is Tennessee cave creature. Nunyuni, meaning stone dress in Cherokee, was a creature believed to inhabit Tennessee and western North Carolina. In Tennessee, a creature described as a dwarf Bigfoot or Slothfoot was sighted in Hamlin County Cave. In 2009, a woman named Leslie reported a strange creature in the cave in Hamlin County, Tennessee. The creature was described as 4 feet in length, no hair on face, white skin, human features. Body covered in brown hair, short legs, heavy paws with claws that flatten on the end, can climb cave walls and freeze in place. Leslie suggests that the creatures be a cousin to the Bigfoot, but smaller. Some have suggested the creature being a surviving North American ground sloth or slothfoot. The creature was also described to have a 3-toed paw. There are 2 types of sloth, 2-toed and 3-toed. However, this can get confusing as both types have 3 claws, or toes, on their hind limbs. The 2-toed sloth's closest relatives was the extinct Megalonyx that inhabited the region during the late Pleistocene, again with the dinosaurs. Spearfinger, or Utlunta, is a native figure legend that lived among the eastern side of Tennessee and western part of North Carolina. which I mentioned Spearfinger in my Cherokee Legends episode. But Utlunta translates from Cherokee to the one with the pointed spear, which refers to her sharp fingers' claws. Sometimes she was called Nunyuni, which means stone dress. This name is from her stone-like skin, buried in the skin of the myelodontid ground sloths, including the Harlan's ground sloth, whose range extended from Florida to Washington State, were a series of small bony discs known as osteoderms. These little knobs, nickel-sized in Harlan's ground sloth, were mostly clustered around the back, shoulders, and neck, and would have acted like protective chainmail. So did Leslie see a sloth, Bigfoot, Spearfinger, Nunyuni? Who knows? Something not mentioned in this is the Tennessee cave salamander. So did Leslie see a sloth, Bigfoot, Spearfinger, Nunyuni? Who knows? Something not mentioned is the Tennessee cave salamander, which really isn't exactly the same, obviously, but I just wonder. The Tennessee cave salamander inhabits the southern Cumberland Plateau in the Appalachian Mountains in the United States. Its range includes south-central Tennessee, south North Carolina, northeastern Alabama, western Alabama, and northwestern Georgia. The salamander lives in cave systems and is probably present in some systems as yet unexplored. It's not supposed to be as big as what Leslie saw, but still in the dark in a cave, you never know for sure what you saw and what your mind sees, I guess. So, it's just an idea. Just a Heather idea, to be honest. My idea, but still. The Albatwitch is next. The Albatwitch is a 4-foot-tall, hairy ape man seen near Chickees Rock area of the Susquehanna River. Not to be mistaken with the juvenile Bigfoot, the Albatwitch has more of a neck and has a skinnier, more human-like proportions. They steal apples, hang out in the trees, and throw the fruit at people if they get too close. Local Native American groups even have stories involving the creature. The Susquehannocks reportedly painted images that match the description of these creatures in their war shields. The Algonquin told tales of a small hairy hominid creature called Mugumuwisus. The name Albatwitch is believed to be Pennsylvania Dutch English compound word for apple snitch. However, if you look at the German origins of the name, you come up with apple elf or elf spirit, or gliding, escaping elf spirit. Legend says that the small, hairy creature terrorized picnickers at Chickees Rock in the 1800s by stealing their apples and pelting the cores back at them. Legends speak of how the Albatwitches would oftentimes steal apples from picnickers, occasionally even throwing them at startled people. Legends also recorded that the creatures often sat in trees, coming down only to find food. Legend also states that this Albatwitch either became extinct or driven nearly into extinction in the later years of the 19th century. Chickees Rock, where the creature supposedly lived, does have a tradition of strange sights and sounds in the 1950s and 70s. A man-like figure was seen several times, and local legends also speak of sounds like the crack of a whip heard in the woods at night. One can only wonder if these could be connected with the Albatwitch. Whether these stories are connected or not, several sightings of Bigfoot types have been recorded in this area. A vague report concerning the sighting of a hairy humanoid came from Lancaster in 1973. Lancaster is a scant 10 miles east of Columbia. Another came from town to North Anvil, about 20 miles to the north in the same year. In addition, a number of reports have surfaced out of neighboring York County. Also, some sources say that the Susquehannocks, like many Indian tribes, had a belief in ape-like monster, and sometimes depicted on their war shields, which I mentioned earlier. Major evidence of their civilization, ruins of a village and burial grounds, were found at the base of Chickees Rock. So the question is it even a real cryptid without a festival? Well, this one has a festival, so maybe it is real. You can celebrate the legend of Pennsylvania's Little Bigfoot at the annual Albatwitch Day Festival in October from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. Check their website for their specific day, it says. Lectures, authors, music artists, vendors, food, trolley tours, ghost tours, and at Columbia Crossing, 41 Walnut Street, Columbia, Pennsylvania. Visit albatwitchday.com for more information. Next is the Silver Giant. This one was excited when I saw a name, made me think of the Iron Giant. But it isn't like the Iron Giant, unfortunately. The Appalachian Silver Giant is a creature from the folklore of the Appalachian region of North America. According to legend, this massive humanoid creature has shaggy silver fur and eyes that glow in the dark. It's described as being almost 10 feet tall and weighing over 500 pounds, making it incredibly strong and agile. The silver giant is said to be a solitary predator that hunts in the mountains and forests of the Appalachian region. It feeds on livestock, wildlife, and sometimes humans. Its strength and speed make it a formidable opponent, and those who have encountered it describe it as terrifying and awe-inspiring. Due to its fearsome reputation, the Appalachian silver giant is often portrayed as a creature to be avoided at all costs. Many believe that encountering the silver giant is a sign of impending doom or tragedy, and some legends suggest that it can be only defeated by powerful magic or divine intervention. The legend of the silver giant is relatively recent, dating back to the mid-20th century. Some speculate that it is a previously unknown species of primate or a mutated bear. Many people in the region still believe that the creature is lurking in the forest and hills around them. Something else I read said that the silver giant was connected to the legend of Spearfinger. Funny how she keeps coming up. Smoke wolf. The smoke wolves, like many Appalachian cryptids, are a species that hail from northwest Virginia. Unlike most cryptids, there are multiples of this creature, and they seemingly travel in groups, like any typical wolf species. Described as wolves made of smoke, as the name indicates, these creatures seem to be one of the only ones that are actively malevolent rather than defensive, such as cryptids that protect certain regions, like the Goat Man, or are nonviolent, such as most iterations of Bigfoot. In an article by Travel Channel that discussed 10 cryptids of Appalachia, it mentions a man who sighted them on his property and claims that they kill for fun, as well as the only defense is the sound of rattling chains. Alternatively, a small article from A2ZAnimals.com by Kristen Holden states that they are physical wolves with the ability to turn into smoke, hence their ability to evade photography and capture. Taggart Valley is where the smoke wolves have been seen. Taggart Valley is also home of the Grafton Monster. But also the smoke wolf is a Native American culture, so I believe it's been seen in other places other than Taggart Valley, but that's where I could find the most stories of it and the best description. In Native American culture, it says that in the indigenous cultures of North America, particularly among Native American tribes, the smoke wolf has been sighted near sacred areas and during specific ceremonies, often seen near ancient burial grounds or in dense forests believed to have spiritual significance, described as a large wolf with dark, smoke-like fur and glowing eyes. It appears and disappears on the wisp of smoke, sometimes seen as a protector or guide of the spirit world. Although these two creatures sound like two different things, so I don't know. Who knows? Is the smoke wolf in Taggart Valley the same as the Native American smoke wolf, or are they two different things? Veggie Man. Listen, I don't know what it is about West Virginia and their cryptids, but dang, they have a lot of them. The Vegetable Man, or Veggie Man, was said to be very tall, arguably over 7 feet, thin with a semi-human shape. It also appeared to be partially plant-based and possessed large ears with striking eyes that oscillated in colors, going from red to yellow rapidly. Its arms were thin and gave the impression of reeds by a riverbank. On the ends of its long fingers were suction cups which had thorns protruding from them. So, I don't know if any of you guys ever watched Darkwing Duck. I used to watch it as a kid, and there was a villain on there named Bushroot. And for some reason, I can't help stop thinking of about Bushroot, so maybe Bushroot is Veggie Man. In 1968, in the woods around Fairmont, West Virginia, Jennings Frederick was out for a hunt. As he moved through the woods in search of game, Frederick heard an odd noise. It sounded like a record player running faster than it should, a sort of high-pitched jabbering. When he tracked down the source of the sound, he came face to face with the creature. Jennings would go on to say that the being looked weakened, sickly. The jabbering increased suddenly. He could make out the words. Like maybe it was possibly telepathic communication. But it said, "You need not fear me. I wish to communicate. I come as a friend. We know of you all. I come in peace. I wish medical assistance. I need your help." With that, the creature lunged at him and wrapped Frederick up in his surprisingly strong arms. Frederick was unable to break away from the embrace as the creature pierced his skin with the thorns on his fingers. While it drained blood from him, Frederick found himself enthralled by the flashing colors of the creature's eyes. Then, almost as quickly as it had pounced, the Vegetable Man raced away up a hill. Frederick then claimed to hear a deep humming sound on the other side of the hill. He surmised that it might have been the sound of the creature's ship taking off. This implies that he felt the monster was of extraterrestrial origin. Which, I mean, it's a big giant veggie man with suckers on its hands and claws. I would say if it is real, it would be extraterrestrial. But to date, the 1968 encounter is the only sighting of the Vegetable Man. So maybe if only one person ever encountered it, I wouldn't exactly consider that a cryptid, but who knows? I mean, I guess he came from outer space, and it was a chance encounter. No one else may ever see anything like it again, but there we are, another West Virginia cryptid. Next is a raven mocker. The raven mockers are figures in Cherokee mythology, described as witches or evil spirits that prolong lives by preying on the sick and dying. They're often depicted as withered and aged, flying through the night while emitting cries resembling a raven's call. Consuming the hearts of their victims, they absorb the remaining years of life. Though invisible to most, skilled medicine men can detect and repel them. According to tradition, recognizing a ravenmocker in its true form causes it to die within 7 days. The ravenmocker is said to prey on the sick or dying to extend its lifespan. At night, it's believed to fly through the air in fiery form, with outstretched arms resembling wings and sparks trailing behind it. The flight is accompanied by the sound of rushing wind, and their cries, described as resembling a raven's dive call, and are considered an omen of death. Ravenmockers are said to gather at the homes of the dying, tormenting their victims by pressing on their chests to restrict breathing or throwing them onto the ground. After the victim dies, the ravenmocker is believed to remove and consume the heart to absorb the victim's remaining lifespan. No marks are left on the body, but the heart is said to be missing. According to Cherokee mythology, it robs the sick and dying of their heart. After tormenting and killing the victim by slitting the victim's head, they consume his heart, doing so without leaving a mark on the victim's skin. And they add a year to their lives for every year that the slain would have still lived. The sound of a ravenmocker means that someone in the area will die soon. Although feared for their power, other witches are said to avoid the ravenmocker. Medicine men using special knowledge can detect and repel them from entering homes. Tradition holds that if a ravenmocker is seen in its natural form, it dies within 7 days. It's been said that a renowned Cherokee shaman was said to have destroyed several ravenmockers by using a special tea made from duckroot, enabling him to see them. The ravenmocker can either be male or female, and they usually look old and withered because they have added so many lives to their own, normally appearing as old, withered men and women, or turning completely invisible, except to certain medicine men. They take to the air in a fiery shape with sounds of raven's cry and strong wind as they hunt for their next victim. The drawing of this thing is super creepy. I don't think I'd want to come across it on a dark night for sure, so if nothing else, it definitely makes a creepy looking creature. And my last one is the Men in Black. So are they cryptids? Are they government agents? I'm not really sure. I think they belong on the list, though. In my Mothman episode, I mentioned the Men in Black. They're more than just a movie or comic book. The Men in Black have been sighted around the country and even the world since at least the 1940s. In popular culture and UFO conspiracy theories, Men in Black are government agents dressed in dark suits who question, interrogate, harass, threaten, allegedly memory wipe, and sometimes assassinate unidentified flying object witnesses to keep them silent about what they have seen. This term is also frequently used to describe mysterious men working for unknown organizations, as well as various branches of government allegedly tasked with protecting secrets or performing other strange activities. The term is generic as it's used for any unusual, threatening, or strangely behaving individual whose appearance on the scene can be linked to in some fashion with a UFO sighting. Several encounters with the Men in Black have been reported by UFO researchers and enthusiasts. The Men in Black supposedly appeared throughout different moments in history. Men in Black feature prominently in ufology, UFO folklore, and fan fiction. In the 50s and 60s, ufologists adopted a conspiratorial mindset and began fearing they would be subjected to organization intimidation in retaliation of discovering the truth on UFOs. In 1947, Harold Dahl claimed a man in a dark suit warned him not to discuss his alleged UFO sighting in Maury Island. In the 1950s, ufologist Albert K. Bender claimed he was being visited by men in dark suits who threatened and warned him not to continue investigating UFOs. He maintained that the men were secret government agents tasked with suppressing evidence of UFOs. John Keel, who wrote the Mothman prophecies, claimed to have had encounters with the Men in Black and referred to them as demonic supernaturals with dark skin and or exotic facial features. According to ufologist Jerome Clark, reports of Men in Black represent experiences that don't seem to have occurred in the world of conscious reality. Historian Aaron Golias wrote, during the 1970s, 80s, and 90s, UFO conspiracy theorists would incorporate the Men in Black into their increasingly complex and paranoid visions. John Keel has argued that some of the Men in Black encounters could be explained as entirely mundane events perpetuated through folklore. In his 1975 book, The Mothman Prophecies, he describes a late-night outing in 1967 where he was mistaken for an MIB while searching for a phone to call a tow truck. In his article, Gary Barker, my friend the Mythmaker, John C. Sherwood, claims that in the late 1960s, at age 18, he cooperated when Gary Barker urged him to develop a hoax, which Barker subsequently published about what Barker called black men, 3 mysterious UFO inhabitants who silenced Sherwood's pseudonymous identity, Dr. Richard H. Pratt. In popular culture, men in black are United States federal government agents who wear black suits and prevent UFO witnesses from sharing evidence related to their encounters. Men in black don't necessarily wear dark suits and work for the government. The term men in black can also refer to many mysterious figures who appear in UFO sightings. Some people believe that the mysterious men in black are actually aliens in disguise. I know in my Mothman episode, where the men in black visited people at Point Pleasant, West Virginia, people said that there were just things off about them, that they weren't normal. Like, they would drive cars no one had heard of, and they spoke kind of strangely. Some people felt they were more menacing than the Mothman himself. So, if the men in black exist, are they government agents? Are they even human? Are they aliens? Who knows? Hopefully we won't run across them ever to find out. So that's it for today's episode. I actually probably have enough Appalachian cryptids for at least one more episode, maybe two. So that'll come out sometime in the future. Have you ever seen any of these cryptids? Or have you heard their stories? Some of these I'm familiar with, but many I'm not, so it's always interesting to do these. As always, thank you for listening. You can follow me on social media under Poison Appalachia. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Threads, Lemonade, TikTok, Blue Sky, and YouTube. If you could please, on the podcast platform you listen to, please like and rate me and share me, of course. Let everyone know about my podcast. Let's just keep growing this thing. Thanks. Y'all have a great week. Bye.